Hello, students. We will wait for another 2 to 3 minutes for the rest of the cohort to join, okay?
Okay.
Oh, hi, Ain, you're here. Sue is here. Looks like a lot of them are still not here. Thanks. And yes, I live in Malaysia. Do you live in Malaysia? Okay, that's nice. Our time zone is the same, which makes it easier for both of us. Hmm. Okay, I think I will just drop one last call. And then we will start the lecture because today's lecture might be a bit longer. Let's see. Okay, I think the rest we'll not waste any more time and we will start the lecture first. Um, Okay, so today's system is not as simple as the previous two systems, but it's by far one of the most interesting systems that you will learn, and that is the cardiovascular system. Remember, I told you every time you hear the word cardio, let me use my laser pointer. Every time you hear the word cardio, it means it has something to do with the heart. Okay, so let's just dive into the cardiovascular system, and I'll let you know why I chose the heart. Okay, at the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe the role of the cardiovascular system. So you should know what the cardiovascular system is all about and what is its role. Why do we need the system? Next, you should be able to label the structure of the heart. So we're going to look at the heart and the different parts of the heart. And at the end of the lecture, you will be familiar with the different labels. And you should be able, in your exams or tests, you should be able to label the structure of the heart. And we'll also look at the electrical conduction system of the heart, like how does the heart beat, and how does that whole system work of the heart, the beating of the heart. And lastly, we will see the different types of blood and the properties of the blood. Okay, so let's start with the cardiovascular system. What is the cardiovascular system, and what is its role? So in our previous lecture, we have seen that our cells need oxygen, right? We need oxygen to survive. And our cells also need nutrients and water, not just us. Animal cells also need it, plant cells also need it. So every living creature, they need all these things. So in the respiratory lecture, we also learned that oxygen goes into the lungs, into the alveoli to be transported to the bloodstream, so that the bloodstream can transport it to the rest of the body. And we also learned how carbon dioxide is extracted or removed from the body by the blood carrying it back to the lungs. So how does this connect with that? Like, how does this come into the picture? Remember, blood is involved, the bloodstream. So hence we go into the system. You see all the systems are still connected to each other in one way or another. So the cardiovascular system, or the circulatory system, is like the transport system in humans and in animals. In plants, they have their own system called the vascular system, which consists of other tissues called xylem and phloem, but we won't learn that. We're just focusing on the human. So the heart is the transport system. The heart is like the main organ that helps with this transport system in humans. Okay, so in this in cardiovascular system, the role is to circulate blood throughout the body, and in this system we will see these three things again and again, because this system is comprised of this: the heart, blood vessels, and of course the blood. Let's go. So the role of the heart itself. What is the role of the heart? The heart pumps blood around the body. If you feel, say if you touch your chest, your left side, you will actually feel the heartbeat. So the heart is the one that's pumping. It's the one that pumps blood around the body. And you see this here. So in my picture, this is the right side of the heart, and this is the left side of the heart. So the right side of the heart, it pumps deoxygenated blood, meaning blood that has already used up its oxygen. So it doesn't have that sufficient oxygen anymore. The oxygen has been used up. And the left side of the heart, this one pumps. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. I'm not sure where the connection was lost just now. But okay, let's continue. Let me see. Okay. So we were here, the left side and the right side of the heart. Wait. Okay. So the right side of the heart, it pumps blood that has ran out of oxygen to the lungs, okay? Because the lungs is where they get the oxygen from, right? And the left side, this is where the oxygen-rich blood, the blood that has oxygen, comes, and then it's pumped to the rest of the body, so that the blood can carry that oxygen to the rest of the body. Okay, and if you notice the human heart, this would represent the human heart. It has 4 chambers: 1, 2, 3, 4. A frog's heart has 5 chambers, so it's not much.
The screen is not shown.
Oh, it's not showing. Okay, let me stop sharing and start again. Okay. Okay, can you see it now? Let's see. Okay, yes, can see. Okay, so let me just go through this slide one more time. So I was saying the heart, the human heart, it has 4 chambers. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. And this would be the left side of the right side of the heart. This is the left side of the heart. The right side of the heart is the one that pumps deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated meaning that it has ran out of oxygen. So the right side would pump it to the lungs, okay? Because the lungs is where the blood gets oxygen from, right? And then the left side is the blood that has oxygen. So it's rich with oxygen. So it will come to the left side of the heart, and then the left side of the heart will pump it to the rest of the body. Okay. Mammals have double circulatory system. What does this mean? So humans, you and I, we all have double circulatory system. It means that the blood goes through the heart twice. So it goes 2 times. One is when the deoxygenated blood goes to the lungs. And then the other one is when from the lungs, the oxygenated blood comes and goes back through the heart to be pumped throughout the body. So because the blood is traveling through the heart twice, it's called a double circulatory system. Okay, next. So this is the part where you look at the structure of the heart, and you should be able to label this in your exams. Let's see one by one. So this part here, let's start with the left side. So this is the left, sorry, let me show you again. Maybe I should have written it here. The right side of the heart. Okay, this is let me just put R. This is the right side. This is the left side. Okay, let's start with the top here. This part here is called the vena cava. So the vena cava is the one that brings the deoxygenated blood, the blood that doesn't have oxygen. So from the rest of the body, the blood will come here because the oxygen has all been used up. And then it enters this number 2, the atria. This chamber of the heart is called the atrium or atria. So the top part of the heart is called this one, and this one is called the atria. If it's just one, we call it atrium. Okay, so this is the right atrium. The deoxygenated blood will come through the vena cava into the right atrium, and from the right atrium, it goes into 3, the right ventricle. Can you see that? And then from the right ventricle, it goes to the pulmonary artery. This is the pulmonary artery. And the pulmonary artery, from here, it will go to the lungs, okay? It will go to the lungs. And then how does it come back to the heart? It comes back through 5, the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein is the one that carries, sorry, we look at number 5. We're here at number 5 right now. The pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood, the blood that has oxygen. It will bring it back from the lungs here to number 6, the left atrium. And from the left atrium, the blood will go down to number 7, the left ventricle. The blood will be here. And remember, this blood has oxygen. It needs to be taken to the rest of the body because the body needs oxygen. And then from the left ventricle, it's pumped out through number 8. Number 8 is the one that goes to the rest of the body. It's called the aorta. Okay? And then from the aorta, it goes to all the rest of the body. Now you will see this gap, you see the right side is separated from the left side. The part that separates the left and the right side is called the septum. Let me just write it down here. So this part is called the septum. S E P T U M. Okay, the septum separates the two parts. So let's go through this one more time. Let's go through the flow one more time. And we'll go through this again and again so that you get used to it. Okay, again, let's start again. So if the blood has already finished oxygen, right? There's no more oxygen and we need oxygen. So the blood will go to the heart through this number one, the blue one. It's called the vena cava. It has ran out of oxygen. So it goes through the vena cava into the right atrium. From the right atrium, it goes into the right ventricle. Number three, ventricle. From the right ventricle, then it goes in through the pulmonary artery. And from here, it will go to the lungs where it can get oxygen. And then from the lungs, it will come back through number five, the pulmonary vein. So here, just watch the red, the laser cursor. Number five, it will come here into the left atrium. Now over here, because now it has oxygen, okay? So left atrium now goes back to goes here to the left ventricle. And from here, it needs to be pumped out to the rest of the body. And the blood, the artery that does that is called the aorta. So it will go behind here through number eight. And number eight will then send it to the rest of the body. And the part that separates the right and the left part of the heart is called the septum. Okay, see if there are any questions so far. No. Let's go to the next slide. So over here, I have just written down whatever I just read out to you guys, whatever I've shared and said in the previous slide here. So you can just refer to this for more information. Like, well, if you forget what the vena cava is, just refer to this slide for its function. Okay, now you see there's flow involved, like blood is going here and here and there and here. So how is the flow controlled? Like, how do you make sure that when the blood is going from this, let me label it here again, the right side and the left side. So this is the right side, this is the left side. Okay, so how do you make sure that the blood actually doesn't flow back? You have to ensure it's a one-way flow, right? Because there's so many, the flow is going everywhere. So you need to have like a system, like a proper organized way of doing that. And that's where the valves come in. So the valves are like, they are they're like the gates. You know how you open your water tank, you close your water tank. So that's also what we call a valve. So a valve is something that controls the flow of something. Like it ensures that things are either blocked or they go one way. So over here in the heart, we also have valves, and it's to ensure that the blood doesn't flow back. Okay, so once the blood is here, we don't want it going back to the atrium. Or once the blood is already down from here to here, we don't want it to go back to the left atrium either. So that's where the valves come into the picture. So we are going to study 4 valves in this lecture: the pulmonary valve, the tricuspid valve, the mitral valve, and the aortic valve. So the pulmonary valve and the aortic valve, see these valves here? Together, we call them semilunar valves, which I will show you in the next diagram again. The semilunar valves, basically this valve and this valve, these 2 valves, what they do is they prevent the backflow of blood into the ventricle. Okay, so it makes sure that blood doesn't flow back here. Like once the blood is out here, this valve makes sure that it doesn't come back to the ventricle. And here also, it makes sure that the blood doesn't come back to the ventricle. The tricuspid valve makes sure that the blood doesn't flow from the right ventricle into the right atrium. So like once the blood from here is down, this valve makes sure that the blood doesn't go back, the tricuspid valve. And same for the mitral valve, the bicuspid valve. It makes sure that the blood doesn't go back. Once it's in the ventricle, it makes sure that it doesn't go back to the atrium. So again, just follow the cursor when I say all these. Okay. Let me see if there are any questions. No questions in the chat. Okay. So let's look at the whole structure once again. So you have the vena cava. you have all the valves in this picture. You have the arteries, the pulmonary arteries, pulmonary veins. You have the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle, and you have the valves. And as mentioned just now, the aortic valve and pulmonary valve, we can call both of them together by semilunar valve because they both prevent the blood from going back to the ventricle. Okay, let's move on. So now we'll look at it step by step. Okay, so let's go through the whole picture once again, but in a more simplified way. So the right side again, this is the right side. You see the vena cava. The blood has ran out of oxygen, right? So this vena cava is bringing back blood that has ran out of oxygen. So, and this blood is called deoxygenated blood. So deoxygenated blood. So this blood passes down to the right atrium. Okay, so we're here right now. Let's go to the next slide. And then from the right atrium, it will go into the right ventricle. And you see the valve it's passing by. It's this valve here is the tricuspid valve. And then from the right side, the right ventricle, it's time to go to the lungs to get oxygen. So they will go through the here pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is taking the blood to the lungs. Because this blood has ran out of oxygen, so it needs to be taken to the lungs where the oxygen is. Okay, and then, so wait, let me just roughly draw the lungs here, okay? So the lungs doesn't look like lungs, but okay, the lungs, so this would be the lungs. Now, in the lungs, they already got their oxygen, right? They needed oxygen O2. O2 is oxygen, okay? So now that the blood already has oxygen, it needs to come back to the heart so that the heart can pump it out to the rest of the body. So here you see the blood is coming back and it's coming back through this vein called the pulmonary vein. I see a question in this. So deoxygenate. Okay, Elizabeth asked, so the deoxygenated blood are carbon dioxide? I confused. Yes, so the deoxygenated blood is the one that has the waste products like carbon dioxide, but it has run out of oxygen. The oxygen has been used. Okay, so in this case, just remember that it has run out of oxygen already. Did you get that, Elizabeth? Okay, good. You're welcome. Okay. Again, just remember, oxygenated means that the blood has oxygen. Deoxygenated means the blood has already used up the oxygen, so there's no more oxygen in the blood. And that's our concern. At this point, we don't care what else is in the blood, if there's carbon dioxide, waste products, or other things. We just need to focus on the oxygen at this point, okay? Because the cells of your body need oxygen to live. They need oxygen to survive. So because the blood has run out of oxygen, it's coming back to the heart so that the heart can pump it to the lungs where it can get oxygen. And now that it has gotten the oxygen, again, we come back to the pulmonary vein. It's coming back to the to the left atrium of the heart. So it's coming here, the left side, okay? It came to the left atrium, and let's see where it goes next. Now it has oxygen. It brought back the oxygen with it. Okay, and then it goes to the left ventricle. The left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle, it needs to be pumped out to the rest of the body. Your cells need that oxygen. So there, it has gone to the aorta. And the aortic valve here, it controls all the flow. So it goes here and the blood is then pumped to the rest of the body. Is that clear? Okay, let me know if you have any questions before we proceed. Do you have any questions? Anyone have any questions? No questions. Okay. So let's proceed. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, you see I keep mentioning arteries and veins. Arteries are these pipe-looking vessels, these blood vessels, the ones that carry the blood away from the heart are called arteries. Okay, so ones that carry blood away from the heart, like the aorta is pumping the blood out. So it's an artery. This artery, the one that brings the oxygen, no, the one that's this one from the right ventricle, the blood vessel that's pumping the blood out from the heart is called away from the heart. It's called the arteries. The veins are the ones like the pulmonary vein. The veins are the ones that bring the blood back to the heart. So the ones that carrying the blood away from the heart are called arteries. And the vessels that are bringing the blood back to the heart, towards the heart, they're called the veins. Is that clear? Because you need to know this information. Again, the arteries carry blood away from the heart. Remember the A for away. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. And veins, they bring blood back to the heart. Okay. Okay, good. It's clear. So let's look at arteries and veins and capillaries because blood vessels, these are different type of blood vessels. So arteries are the one that are carrying blood away from the heart, right? Veins are the one that carry blood to the heart, and capillaries are then smaller blood vessels. They connect the arteries and veins. You still need to have those smaller vessels to connect the two. So that's the function. The function of artery is to carry blood away from the heart to other parts of the body. The function of the vein is to carry blood to the heart. And the function of the capillary is to connect the arteries and the veins. Now, lumen is the middle part of all these blood vessels. If you notice the size of the artery, the lumen size of the artery is quite small. But for the vein, it's bigger, it's much bigger than the artery. And then for lumen, it's very small. It's like, yeah, you can just look at the picture here. There is a reason behind this, which I will tell you later. And then you also look at the thickness of this wall here. You see this wall? This is quite thick. And we also, so researchers and scientists and doctors, they've also studied that these artery walls are elastic and muscular. But for vein, it's very thin and it's less elastic. And the blood flow in the, okay, so here's the reason. So why is this so elastic and why is the lumen small? It's because the blood flow is very fast in the artery, okay? Because it's carrying blood away from the heart, right? So if it's carrying blood away from the heart, that means that the pressure is very high. Okay, it has to make sure that it reaches the different parts of the body. And the blood flow is also very fast. That's why you need thicker and elastic walls in the artery. Otherwise, it would burst. And then for veins, because the pressure is low, usually the blood that is bringing back, the flow is very slow. And the pressure is also very low compared to the artery. Hence, it doesn't need the thick elastic walls. And for capillaries, again, similar to veins, because the blood flow is very low and the pressure is also very, very low, even lower than the veins. Hence, it's okay if it's 1 cell thick, the walls, it won't burst. Okay, and then the type of blood it carries. So for arteries, remember they carry blood away from the heart. And since it's carrying blood away from the heart, it has to be oxygenated blood, right? Because in order to carry it away to the rest of the body, it means you have collected that oxygen. But there is one exception. Okay, and that exception is the pulmonary, let me highlight that, the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery, it carries blood away from the heart, but it's carrying the blood to the lungs where it gets the oxygen. So only pulmonary artery is not carrying oxygenated blood. All the other arteries are carrying oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. For pulmonary artery, this artery is responsible to carry the blood away from the heart to the lungs. That's why the blood is not oxygenated yet. And then for veins, again, veins bring blood back to the heart, right? So because it's bringing blood from the rest of the body, the blood is deoxygenated. And there is exception again, the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein is the one that's bringing blood back to the heart from the lungs. So there is oxygen there. Okay, this might be quite confusing, but you get it. You will get it eventually. So just remember that in order for carrying blood away from the heart means that the blood has to have oxygen. It has to be oxygenated blood. That's why the heart is pumping it out to the rest of the body through the arteries, right? But there is one exception, the pulmonary artery, because the pulmonary artery has to carry blood away from the heart, but to the lungs, because it has run out of oxygen. And deoxygenated blood is carried by the veins. So the veins are the ones that are bringing blood back to the heart. And because it's bringing the blood back, means that the oxygen has been used up. So that's why it's bringing it back so that it can be oxygenated, except for pulmonary vein, it's bringing the blood back from the lungs. So because it's coming from the lungs, it has oxygen. So it's oxygenated blood in the pulmonary vein. For the rest of the veins, it's deoxygenated blood. And capillary, they do both oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood because it's connecting the two, the arteries and the veins. And again, because in the, okay, let's look at valves. So veins have valves because the pressure is low. So the blood may go back. Hence, they need the valves. But for arteries, no valve is needed. The pressure is so high and the flow is very fast. There is no need for valves. Yeah, it won't flow back. Here's a, see no questions in the chat. Here's a GIF. So I thought it would make it easier for you to see how the blood is flowing through the heart. Again, the first thing to note is that it's a double circulatory system. See when the blood, let's start from here. It went through the heart once, went into the lungs, then it came back to the heart. So double circulatory system. Let's start all over again. Okay, it came to the heart. It went to the lungs to get oxygen, came back to the heart, and then it's pumped out to the rest of the body. Again, right lung, this is your right side. This is the left side. You have two lungs, remember that? Yeah, so let's look at the flow one more time. Okay, let's wait for it. So it came, this is deoxygenated, it's pumped to the lungs, brought back to the heart, so it can be pumped to the rest of the body. Okay, now we will look at the electrical conduction system of the heart. But before that, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask now before we go to the next part. No questions. Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth. Let's go to the next part. So how does the heart pump? That's also a question to consider. How is it pumping? And that's where the electrical conduction system of the heart comes into the picture. So in this one, we will look at the SA node and the AV node, and I will tell you what both of these stand for. So let's look at the SA node, the sinoatrial node. So this is the pacemaker. You see this node here, this one, the first one. This is the SA node, and it's the primary pacemaker because it maintains the regular heartbeat. it paces the heartbeat, okay? So this is the most, this is the primary one. And then what this SA node does, sinoatrial node, what it does is that it generates electrical impulses. So look at the image. It generates an impulse which goes here. And when it generates that impulse, you look at the top part of the heart. The moment this, look at the SA node here. See, the moment it generates that electrical impulse, you see both the atria contracting. You see, it becomes small, it constricts, it contracts. Yeah, so that's what the SA node does, the sinoatrial node. The atria, it contracts the atria. And now look at the second one. See the second part here? This is the atrioventricular node, AV node. Okay, this one is the AV node. So let me just draw a line. This one is the SA node. And this one is the AV node. Atria, so remember if you forget, you just look at the atrial here. This one has atrial. It means it contracts the atrium, okay? Both the atrium, so together we call them atria. And then for AV node, remember there's a word, okay, here, ventricular. Because it has the word ventricular, you can remember that it is involved in contracting the ventricles. So see, the atria contracting together, it happens at once, simultaneous. And then you see the ventricles contracting. Atria, ventricle. Yeah. So that's what these nodes are for. That's how the conduction system works in the heart. So do read up on this more. If you're interested, you can even go and watch YouTube videos on how this works. Okay, let me see if there are any questions in the chat. No questions in the chat. Okay, we have the last part. It is the properties of the blood. Okay, so now we will look at the blood. In this one, we will look at red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. And just to clarify, in the background, you see those are just the red blood cells, okay? But there's more than just red blood cells. When we speak of the blood, there's red blood cell, there's white blood cell, there's platelets, and there is plasma. So you look at here, look at this. Let me get my laser pointer. Look at this tube. You see this tube? This is your blood, but you see there are different components in your blood. There's this part here. This one is the plasma. So the plasma is the liquid component of your blood. And the plasma is what makes the most of the, here. It makes the most portion here. 55% of it is plasma. And then you see the white blood cell, very few. And you also see the platelets. Here's the platelets. So you have less than 1% platelets, but you have a lot of plasma. And plasma is mostly water. Yeah, most of it is actually water. And then you have the red blood cells here, which is 45% of the blood. So let's look at the function of each of these. Red blood cells. So you can see the red blood cells here. We have studied the red blood cells before. Remember in the first lecture, we mentioned the disc shape because they carry oxygen, and also that they don't have a nucleus, so that they have the capacity, more capacity for carrying oxygen. So the red blood cells are crucial for oxygen transport because oxygen binds to the red blood cells. And then we have the white blood cells. So white blood cells, you can see here. There are many different types of white blood cell, but in this lecture, we're just focusing on white blood cell in general. And hold on, yeah. Okay, so the white blood cell in general. Let me take my laser pointer again. Okay, white blood cell. So what is the function of the white blood cell? It's actually bigger than the red blood cell, and it has the nucleus, and its function is to defend the body against diseases. So every time there is a virus that enters our body, or if there's a bacterial infection, It's actually the white blood cells that are responsible for protecting us against that. So the white blood cell will catch those pathogens, those germs, and it's the one that gets rid of those germs by different processes. But it kills those germs, and it is crucial for us to have white blood cells because that's our body's immune system. It defends us from diseases. Okay, so that was the white blood cell. And remember, they do have, red blood cell doesn't have nucleus, but white blood cells, they do have nucleus. Okay. And next we go to platelets. So platelets are crucial for blood clotting and healing. When you have a cut, you see a scab forming, right? You see the blood clots. How does that happen? This is where platelets come in. Platelets are responsible for blood clotting and healing. And lastly, plasma. So plasma is, again, this is the largest component of the blood. It's here, the liquid part. And this part carries salts and proteins and hormones and waste products. So that's its function. It carries all these things. Again, so properties of the blood, you need to know all these 4 types. You need to know what a red blood cell is and what is its function. You need to know what the white blood cell is and what is its function. You need to know what platelets are and what their role is. So remember blood clotting. It clots the blood together. So the blood, it comes together and it forms a scab eventually. And then the plasma. So you would need to know this for your exams. And I think I forgot to mention one thing here. I will put the full form here. Okay, I think I want to go through the first slide one more time so you can see the whole picture once again. Okay, the vena cava is vena vein. It's bringing the blood back. It's bringing the blood back because the blood has drained out of oxygen to the right atrium. Okay, and in the right atrium, there are those nodes which we mentioned just now, the SA node and the AV node, okay? SA node, remember, it contracts the atrium, the top parts of the atrium, it contracts them. So the blood goes to the ventricles, okay? And this is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle, but we're at the right ventricle now. Then at the right ventricle, remember the right ventricle is, and the left ventricle, they're contracted with the help of the AV node. And then the blood is pushed out here through the pulmonary artery. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Remember that? So the pulmonary artery is carrying blood away from the heart to the lungs. Let me draw the lungs here one more time. I'll just write here, lungs. Okay, so if you're the blood, imagine you're the blood. The blood, okay? You will drain out of oxygen. You're here to collect oxygen to send to the rest of the body. So you came through the vena cava. You entered the right atrium. Then you enter the right ventricle. Or here you're pushed out here through the pulmonary artery. And the artery carries you away from the heart. And the artery carried you to the lungs. And in the lungs, remember from the previous lecture, the lung is where you get the oxygen from, right? So you collected oxygen here. Now it's time. So imagine you are the blood, okay? You collected oxygen. Now you need to go to the body again so you can send this oxygen to the rest of the body. So you come back through the pulmonary vein. Remember, veins bring blood back to the heart. So here you entered the left atrium. Just follow the laser cursor. Okay, you entered the left atrium, and now here, you're contracted, you came here, you entered the left ventricle. You can't go back. Remember, there's a valve stopping you from going back. So you entered here to the left ventricle, And from the left ventricle, you need to go to 8, the aorta. Okay, it's also an artery. So the aorta is going to carry you away from the heart and send you to the rest of the body so that you can deliver that oxygen to the rest of the body. So that was the whole process, which is written here for you. So you can refer to it anytime once I upload the slides to the Google Classroom. And again, remember the valves. You have to remember these valves. You have the tricuspid valve, which stops the blood from going back to the atrium. And then you have the pulmonary valve, which stops the blood from coming back to the ventricle. And on this side, you have the aortic valve. Remember aorta, and then you remember the aortic valve. The aortic valves make sure that the blood doesn't flow back into the ventricle and that it just goes straight to the aorta. Okay? And you have the mitral valve or bicuspid valve, which makes sure that once you have entered the ventricle, you don't go back to the atrium. So one-way flow. And all this is important because you don't want the oxygen-rich blood to mix with the deoxygenated blood. Okay, and remember the right side. The right side is the one that's responsible for the deoxygenated blood. Okay, the deoxygenated blood means that this on this side, the blood coming on this side has ran out of oxygen. It doesn't have oxygen. And the left side of the heart is the one that's responsible for oxygenated blood. It makes sure that the blood has oxygen and that the oxygenated blood has been is sent to the rest of the body through the aorta. Okay. And again, we studied the arteries, veins, and capillaries. They're all different because of their function. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Hence, they have elastic and very thick walls, thick and muscular walls, so that they don't burst. Because when they're carrying blood away from the heart, the pressure is very high and the flow is also very fast. For veins, because the pressure is not that high and it's also the flow is also quite slow, so it doesn't need those thick elastic walls like the arteries do. But then the veins do need valves so that the blood doesn't flow back. And then lastly, capillaries, which are very small and they're very thin because the pressure is very low and the blood flow is very slow. And the capillaries are what connect the veins and arteries then between the little bridges in between. See the blood flow one more time, out, back into the heart. Okay. So that's it for today's lecture. Do you have any questions? I have put the references here again, and then again, I do advise you that you look at videos, YouTube videos, which show how the blood flows. Okay, Sue asked a question. How do you pronounce sinoatrial valve? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, sinoatrial valve. And remember the atrial because there's the word atrial there. So know that it's the one that contracts the atria. Okay, it contracts the atria. Okay. And the short form for that is SA node. So sometimes in medical, you don't have enough time to pronounce every word, right? When you're in the work field or when you need things done fast, you just say SA node. Yeah, but in your exam, you please put the full name, okay? Teacher, can you please show us the reference again? Yeah, I will show you the reference again. It's basically IGCSE and A-levels books. You can, and once I upload the slides, you can refer to the last slide. Let me share it here. Here are the references. These are the books I use. There's the A-levels biology. There's also the IGCSE biology book, the revision guide, and you can also watch videos. Or you can also refer to Khan Academy. That's one of the best videos I think. Okay. And once I upload the slides, you can always refer to the last slide for references and resources. Any more questions? Do you have any questions? You can ask now. Let me share the slides. So you're welcome, Elizabeth. You're welcome. And okay, let me share the slides one more time. We'll go from slide 1 to the last slide, and you let me know if you have any questions. Okay, let's start all over again. On the objectives. So today we studied the cardiovascular system. These were the objectives. The role of this cardiovascular system and structure of the heart, the electrical conduction, and different types of bloods and the property of blood. Oh yeah, different types of blood. You know that there are also for different types of bloods, there's like different types. So there's A, B, AB, and blood type O, which I will cover if we have time in the future. Yeah, so we study the cardiovascular system, the heart, blood vessels, blood. We studied the role of the heart, the double circulatory system, parts of the heart with its functions, the pulse in the heart. Summarize. We studied the right side of the heart and how the blood flows through it, the left side and how the blood flows through it, arteries and veins, and capillaries. And we studied the electrical conduction system. And properties of the blood, red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets, plasma. And that's it. So if I don't see any questions in the chat, so do you have any questions now after going through the slides? Okay, so no questions and no more questions. Oh, Cheyenne, you're in the class. I didn't see you earlier. Elizabeth, no questions. Okay, Joan, do you have any questions? John and Cheyenne, do you have any questions? No, John, thank you. Cheyenne, no questions. Okay, if no questions, let me take the attendance one more time. Take the attendance and then you all can leave. Wait, okay, don't click first. Let me take the attendance. Nothing September. And Sue, John, Elizabeth, Shine. Okay, thank you. So if you have no more questions, you can leave the class. If you have questions from previous lectures, you can stay back and ask me the questions. If no, that's it for today's lecture. Thank you, Sue. You have a nice day too. Mm. Thank you, and you have a good evening as well. Cheyenne, do you have any questions? If no questions, you're free to leave the class. Cheyenne, if you have any questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can unmute and ask the question. No questions. Okay, that's fine. If no questions, then see you again. Yeah, see you.